The average American has less than $400 saved for emergencies. That's not a crisis. That's Tuesday for most people. Look, we hear average American thrown around all the time in headlines, but what does that actually mean when it comes to money? Because if you're living paycheck to paycheck, wondering if you're doing something wrong, these numbers might actually make you feel less alone. By the end of this, you'll know exactly where you stand compared to everyone else, and more importantly, you'll understand why so many of these stats look the way they do. It's not about comparing yourself. It's about seeing the real financial landscape most of us are navigating right now, especially with rent, groceries, and gas all hitting harder than they did 2 years ago. Let's talk about what the average person is actually dealing with. So, that $400 number. The Federal Reserve found that nearly 40% of Americans couldn't cover a $400 emergency without borrowing money or selling something. Think about what $400 actually is. That's a car repair, a root canal, your deductible if you need urgent care. For tens of millions of people, one unexpected bill means choosing between paying rent on time or fixing the problem. This isn't about being bad with money. When your rent is $1,500, groceries are $600, and you're making $50,000 a year before taxes, the math just doesn't leave room for savings. The average person isn't failing to save, they're surviving month to month. The average American with credit card debt carries around $6,500 on their cards. Total credit card debt in the U.S. recently crossed $1 trillion. But here's what most people miss. This isn't vacation debt or shopping sprees for most households. It's groceries when the paycheck didn't stretch. It's medical bills that got charged because the alternative was not getting care. It's the gap between what things cost and what people actually earn. And with interest rates on cards sitting around 20 to 25% right now, that $6,500 can easily cost you $1,500 a year just in interest if you're only making minimum payments. You're not moving forward, you're paying rent on your own money. About 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. That includes people making six figures in expensive cities. It's not just minimum wage workers anymore. What does that actually mean? It means if your paycheck is late by 3 days, something doesn't get paid. Your budget has zero margin. There's no cushion. One missed shift, one surprise expense, one anything, and the whole system breaks. This is why those "just save 20% of your income" articles feel completely disconnected from reality for most people. When 100% of your income is already spoken for, you can't just manifest extra money. The median retirement account balance for Americans in their 30s is around $30,000. For people in their 60s, it's around $112,000. Let me clarify something important here. Median means half of people have less than that. And $112,000 might sound okay until you realize that's supposed to last 20 or 30 years of retirement. The rule of thumb says you can safely withdraw about 4% per year. That's $4,480 annually, less than $400 a month. Meanwhile, the experts say you need about 80% of your working income to retire comfortably. If you were making $50,000 a year, that's $40,000 annually in retirement. The gap between $112,000 saved and what you'd actually need is massive. And for gig workers, freelancers, or anyone without employer retirement plans, most aren't saving anything at all because they're focused on making rent this month. The average student loan borrower owes around $37,000. Total student loan debt in the U.S. is over $1.7 trillion. That $37,000 usually comes with a monthly payment somewhere between $200 and $400, depending on your interest rate and repayment plan. For someone making $45,000 a year, that's a car payment's worth of money going to a degree they already earned. And here's the trap. Many people took these loans at 18, told it was the only path forward. Now they're 30, and that debt is the reason they can't save for a house, can't build an emergency fund, can't invest for retirement. The loan doesn't care that your salary didn't match the promise. The average credit score in the U.S. is around 715. Sounds decent, right? But about 43 million Americans have medical debt in collections, and that can tank your score fast. Here's the thing. Medical debt isn't a reflection of financial irresponsibility. It's a reflection of getting sick or injured in a country where healthcare costs are wildly unpredictable. You can do everything right, have insurance, and still get hit with a $3,000 bill you can't pay. Once that hits collections, your credit score drops. Now you're paying higher interest on everything: car loans, credit cards, even apartment deposits. You're being financially punished for needing medical care. About 66% of Americans own their home, but that number drops significantly for younger people. Meanwhile, the median rent in the U.S. is over $2,000 in many metro areas. The old rule was rent shouldn't exceed 30% of your income. That would mean you'd need to make $80,000 a year to afford $2,000 rent. The median individual income in the U.S. is around $40,000 to $45,000. The math doesn't work, so people are spending 40%, 50%, sometimes 60% of their income on rent. What's left for food, utilities, transportation, and savings? Not much. And saving for a down payment? With 20% down on a $400,000 home, you'd need $80,000. If you're spending half your income on rent, where's that coming from? The real problem starts when we treat these stats like personal failures instead of system-level issues. If tens of millions of people can't cover a $400 emergency, that's not a character flaw. That's wages not keeping up with costs. That's rent eating half your paycheck. That's medical debt destroying credit scores through no fault of your own. These numbers aren't shocking because people are reckless. They're shocking because they show how hard it's become to just get by. So where do you actually stand? If you're living paycheck to paycheck, if you have credit card debt, if you're behind on retirement savings, you're not alone. You're statistically normal. That doesn't make it okay, but it does mean the problem is bigger than any one person. The goal isn't to feel hopeless, it's to see the terrain clearly. When you know half of people in their 60s have less than $112,000 saved, you stop thinking retirement is some automatic thing that just happens. When you see that $400 breaks most budgets, you understand why building any emergency fund at all is an accomplishment. You can't fix a rigged game by pretending it's fair, but you can make better moves when you see the board clearly. Real security comes from understanding the rules, even when they're stacked against you. If this gave you a clearer picture of where things actually stand, hit subscribe. We break down money topics without the hype, without the BS, just the reality most people are living. Thanks for watching.